Hello there, welcome back to Chatters DIY. Another episode of my man cave / workshop build, episode number 5, and very exciting day today, getting the floor fitted. Alright, it's just arrived and I've got Nay here to help fit it with me. Let's have a look at it. Right, so we've just put down the Styco-Bond vinyl adhesive. Managed to get hold of some really good, very hard wearing vinyl, which should be fine. And I know that everyone's going to say something now about it's supposed to be plywood that it goes down on, but it'll be fine. The adhesive's good and applied quite liberally, so we should have no issue with it. It's sticking straight down to the OSB. Just doing the join now. So the floor's done. I put Henry round and made a mess already because I'm getting getting a certain something out. I put my floor socket back in and I'm just going to try and do a repair on something. The one thing that I did say was that the OSB flooring would not really make a difference to putting the vinyl down. It turns out that was a load of crap. When we come to do the join in the two pieces, the floor isn't perfectly flat and probably would have been flatter if it was plywood. So unfortunately there was some places where the join, as we was cutting off the excess, the joint kept popping out because the floor has got undulations, ever so slight undulations in it, which didn't suit it. But after a bit of faffing about, that's all sorted as well. Just took slightly longer to fit. So yeah, the biggest news of the day, other than the floor being massive anyway, the pool table's arrived. So I've managed to source a pool table. The only caveat with it is that it needs a little bit of a repair on the feet. I'll just point that out. So this is a DPT pool table. This is the little MDF panels that you'll see on the bottom of the legs. That's obviously what the legs look like. And then there's these little panels here. This is where I've unscrewed the adjustable foot from. Now these obviously, bit of a weakness. I've seen these break in the past on these tables, and yeah, so this one's just started to go. You can just see that it's got a bit of a bend in it, so that one's just about to pop, and that one's completely blown, and this one's completely blown. You can see the three sections of it. Look, one's already come off. There's one, and there was the other. So now I need to look at replacing these little panels with something a little bit stronger, or sitting something directly underneath all of them and then refitting some feet. These are the feet that have come off. Unfortunately the other two that have broken off completely long gone. So I need to come up with an alternative. The alternative that I've come up with, I don't know whether it's going to work, but these adjustable legs for kitchen cabinets. I've literally got two of them in my garage, so I'm going to see if I can cut these off so that they're shorter. This whole shaft here is all threaded, and the bottom section that threads in is only about as far as up to where my finger is. So I should be able to cut off a good 1.5 to 2 inches. Just looking to see how much that will compare to the other legs, but once there's a bit of plywood or something on the bottom of them, I've got a feeling they might be too long, so we'll see. Right, first things first, I'm going to see about getting out this last remaining decent panel and see about replicating that 4 times with some of this decent hardwood 18mm plywood that I've found, just enough. So with just a couple of taps with the Irish screwdriver, we've managed to get them out. It's just held in with these little bits, these staples and a tiny bit of glue. So now I'm going to use that as a template and replicate it onto the plywood. So there you go. I just traced the outline of that template. I'll now cut them out with a jigsaw. So now we've got 4 of them. And I'm just going to have to break out the ones that are the bits that are still remaining and then put these ones in their place. Okay, the next thing to do is just where they've come off, there's a little bit of glue. It's not really come off very cleanly, so I'm just going to use a chisel. Like this one as well, look. I'm just going to use a chisel just to tidy them up a bit. Right, they're all tidied up. So we'll pop the new bases in. I don't know what else to call them. New panels for the feet to attach to. Goes around that way. There you go. So now they should all be the same again, but made out of some much stronger material. The next thing I'm going to do is when I secure these, they're going to be secured with screws and pilot holes rather than just little staples. And then once that's done, we'll drill out these holes for the feet to go back in, if they're needed, that is. If I use the adjustable legs of the cupboards that I'm thinking about using, then they might not be required. Right, so I've pre-drilled the base for there. I'm going to be adding some wood glue around where the previous one had it, even though I don't think it's going to make much difference, because when this is the other way up, that section is going to be sitting on that section and they're going to be forced together, so they shouldn't come apart, especially with the screws in. Using 4x35s. So I didn't quite have a pre-drill that was small enough, because I don't think there's any such thing as a 3mm or a 2.5mm bit that doesn't snap off every time you use it. But so what I've had to do is I've just broke the tops of that plywood with the pre-drill. That's about as much as they'll screw in by hand. I want them to bite as much as possible, so I've just angled them so that they'll go in to the centre of that MDF and bite really nicely and set that glue off. So only 2 proper feet remaining that need the threaded rod to go right through that base plate. So I'm just going to use my 16mm bit now to drill a hole in one set of legs for those feet to be reattached, and then we'll have to work on the others. These just fit like giant washers with screws, screw-holes in, and that centre hole's threaded. So you just have to make sure that that's over the hole that you've drilled, and then they're self-tapping screws, secure that in place. So I've just screwed them down to their lowest point. Now I can measure to see what the lowest point is, the height of that feet, those feet even, and see about then the minimum I need to make these ones. Right, I'm going to have to do some calculating then. The height of the feet at their smallest is 55mm, which only comes to there. So these are currently about 140mm. So that's going to be quite a lot of cutting down. So I've had a good think about it. I don't think I'm going to be able to use these. The length of that alone is just over 80mm. Plus, I'm going to have another piece of plywood cut to a base sort of shape, a foot shape or a circular size similar to that of those feet. Poppy's come to see what's going on. Inspections. Everything okay, Pop? Nasal inspection? Nasal inspection? What are you doing, Dad? Doing a bit of woodwork? Oh. Do you approve, Pop? Do you approve? Is it all good? So, it's going to be 80 odd, or just over 80 mil for that, plus another 18 for the plywood on the bottom, about 100 mil, because that's 18, that's about 80, yeah. So that's 100 mil, plus even if I cut this piece off so that there's no excess, there's still another 25 mil on that top section, so that's 125 mil tall. What's that? See, that's still only 80, and actually the thread underneath has now disappeared and the whole thing's coming a bit wobbly, so I think that's too much. Okay, genius new plan. I'm going to take this block of wood which I've cut off square, mark the centre. I'm going to use a compass, cut it. I am actually going to cut a proper circle, but it'll give me the places to the lines to draw for maybe an octagonal shaped foot. And then I'm going to use the 25 mil Forstner bit. I'm going to cut off this leg about there and sink this shaft that's not threaded into the wood. The wood is 45 mil thick, so that will then protrude from the top of there with a threaded section. And then this section that it screws into, remember all of this shaft is threaded. I'm going to use a 30 mil Forstner bit, reinforce those pieces on there and make them twice as thick probably, so that I can go all the way through. Glue and laminate two pieces of plywood together on the underside of those and put some screws in there to make that nice and strong, and then glue this threaded shaft coming out of that plywood base, which by that point is going to be 36 mil thick, and 18 mil of that is going to be glued with that shaft, so it should still be just as strong as it as I was originally intending, but I'll technically have an adjustable foot. It's at this point I hear 1,000 or hundreds of thousands of children's voices saying, when am I going to use maths? When am I going to use a compass? By the way, at the time I was definitely one of those kids. Right, so I set my saw to 45 degrees to give me a sacrificial piece there so that I can hold my blocks at a 45-degree angle. I'm just going to turn my blade again now back to the 90 degrees because it's got these little slots, which means I get to do the maximum cut at 90 degrees, you see. So that's just locked off. Put my piece in place and I can just trim off these corners now just to make a nice octagonal shape to the feet. Right, by the way, when I said a nice octagonal shape, I was only joking, by the way. There is nothing supposed to be massively attractive about these feet. It's all about practical use and getting it done quickly, because I've only got so much time before I need to get the rest of the table out my van. So here we go. I'll start putting in here. I'm going to put the 25 mil Forstner bit. Okay, so I've rough cut a couple of pieces, 135 mil by 120. Trying to do this whilst filming. So So we'll place this under here, clamp to hold it. So I'm just going to pre-drill again in these top pieces and then use the 35mm screws again just to really hold it together, and then I can take the clamps off and do the Forstner drill. Right then, when this piece is fully inserted into the other, all of this section is going to be inside the wood. Now that's going to be at its lowest point when it's there, so I need 15mm is the depth of the Forstner bit that I've just put in the plywood bases. So I've added 15mm to the top of this point and I've reached that line. So that is the depth of this threaded shaft that I need. I'm going to cut that off and insert it in there. Right, look at that. It's absolutely solid as well. It doesn't just go in easily. I'll just grab the Forstner bit. Very precariously. Give it a bit of wiggle room. And now give it a tap. That is not able to be pulled out by hand. I can easily get it back out again or cut it off because it's just plastic. Should I wish to put one of these feet on in the future, I can just cut it off flush, put that giant washer on and drill the hole down through the second piece of plywood. There's a bit of squeeze out there. But as long as the other section of that foot now attaches the same to the octagonal feet, I think I've done it. Right, here we go. Moment of truth. I don't see why this should go any other way than I expect it to. There's one. And drop the other. Okay, that's as far as that one's turning. Question is, how tall are those new feet? They're about 83. What about this one? 85. That one's got a bit of turn left in it, so that will drop a little bit. If I raise this one, look at that, 83. This is definitely what we're raising. So, right, so after a little bit of fannying about, I think I'm ready to try it out. And there we have it. We're all set. There's the original feet. There's my new feet, still adjustable. Table set up, ready for its first match. Kids, do you approve?
Yes.
Look at that. Looks great. Really happy. Bit of mess on the new floor, but it's a workshop. That's what it's there for. So I've had my first matches. I've played the kids. All the kids have had a go. My neighbours come round, and I've had a few beers to celebrate the introduction of my many years awaited pool table. It's living up to expectations. I think the lighting's perfect, the table's playing well, I've got it nice and level, the feet have adjusted really nicely, no problems with them at all, really happy, couldn't be happier. The place is really coming together now. Stay tuned, subscribe, like the video, hope you enjoyed it, hope you learned something, and stick around for episode 6. Who knows what that could involve, don't know what I'm doing next, we'll see. See you later. Chatters DIY out.